Well, hello everyone. Thank you for having me. I'm super excited to be here. Um, just real quick, Karen, we have auditions coming up for our next season at Bag and Baggage. So if you want to try out, it's this weekend. It starts tomorrow.
Oh,
And
that's a little soon.
not enough time to get a monologue together, but that's for anyone.
Mm.
I mean, anyone who wants to try out at Bag and Baggage Productions, where I work, feel free to head to our website and look at our audition information. But yes, so anyways, my name is Elliot Lawrence. I am the marketing and communications manager, as well as the education and outreach coordinator for Bag and Baggage Productions. We are Hillsboro, Oregon's only professional theater company. So one of the things that I'll do today is I'll sort of run down the difference between professional nonprofit, professional for-profit, and a community theater. But along with being a marketing and communications manager, as well as education and outreach coordinator, I am also a general theater artist, which means that I sort of supplement my income and supplement my artistry by doing other freelance work around the Portland area, including acting, playwriting, and directing. So I'll run through all of those things for you guys, but I'll start out with the things that I am actually full-time employed for. So I am primarily a marketing and communications manager for Bag and Baggage Productions. And that means that I run basically everything that you would see about Bag and Baggage before actually getting into the theater. So anything that would let you know the types of shows that we have coming up, anything that lets you know where we are, any sort of advertisement you might see, whether that be on Facebook or Instagram, on Google, just as you're searching us, all of those different places. If it's print advertisement, if there's any sort of posters or anything that you see like that, that is all run through me. And it's called marketing and communications because I am both trying to market to people why they should actually come down and see our shows. And I'm also trying to communicate with people why they should come down and see our shows. So it's sort of twofold, both the image, the sort of the vibe, the colors that we use in our posters and things like that, as well as the actual words, the actual things that we say to people to try and get them into our building. So with that, I think that I'll just show you guys a little example of one of the things that I do as a marketing and communications manager. And this is a short video. It's about a minute. It's about 2 minutes long. And it's a video that I made that is going over the shows that we have coming up for our next season. Generally in theater, things are ran through a season, which for us, our season is April through to the following April. So it's called the 2023-2024 season. So let me try and share my video here. Share screen. Let's see, share sound. Boom, boom. And can you guys just give me like a thumbs up if you can see the YouTube, just so that I know that it's correct? Okay, okay. All right, let's just play this.
Oh,
I'm
I
sorry,
think we might have some
you guys see
technical
that?
difficulties.
Could you guys see that YouTube video?
Well, we got a couple seconds of it and then it was frozen.
Yeah, it told me screen sharing was paused. So let me try it one more time here. Share sound. Yes. Check, 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 check.
Gotta love technology.
Okay. All right. So can you all hear me again?
Yes.
Yeah, fantastic, cool. So that's just one example of something that I work on as a marketing and communications manager. It's all of the videos, all of our social media. I run all of the social media, all of the advertisements, basically trying to convince people to come in and actually see our shows, which is I'll be honest, in the theater profession, it's a bit of an uphill battle at the moment, because we're just coming out of the pandemic. We're just trying to get people reacquainted with the idea of going to see live theater as a something that to entertain themselves for a night. Um, so that is one of the things. The other part of my title is education and outreach coordinator. And as education and outreach coordinator, I I do essentially what I'm doing right now, which is I try and connect with young people around Washington County. I try and teach them a little bit about what it's like to be in the theater industry. Um, and I try and coordinate with schools and colleges and all types of schools from middle school through college, and try to get them in to see shows, try to bring myself to them to lead theater workshops, things like that, and basically share the knowledge that I have, because theater is something that has positively impacted my life, and I think that it's something that could positively impact other people's lives too. Um, a little bit more about myself and how I came to do this work. Uh, so I'm originally from Indiana. I'm from South Bend, Indiana, which is the home of Notre Dame. Uh, and I started doing theater when I was a little tiny kid. I was like 5 years old when I started to do, theater, take theater camps and do small plays and stuff like that. But that is not to say that you have to start young to be interested in theater, because by the time I did theater from the time that I was like 5 to maybe 8 years old. And then I left and I didn't do any theater for a very long time, until I was in high school, and I was like a junior in high school. And then I really sort of just fell into it, where there was an audition happening for a school play. One of my friends was going to the audition. I sat in the audience and did homework while they were auditioning, because I needed them as like a ride home after school or something like that. And the director sort of just pulled me on stage and was like, okay, you're gonna audition now, just do something. And I did, and I got a part. um and then ever since, after that first show that I was in high school, it was like getting bitten by the theater bug, is what they call it. And I loved it. I had a great time, and I decided to do it for the rest of my life. um and so after that, I started sort of looking into more ways to supplement my knowledge of theater. I would go to the bookstore or to the library and just check out a bunch of plays. And plays are like pretty easy and quick to read, especially if you're not grabbing like Shakespeare off the shelves and you're grabbing something a little bit smaller and more manageable. You can generally read a play in like a weekend, if not a day. I mean, I definitely got to a point where I was reading a play a day. Um, and I just read a bunch of plays, and I realized that there were plays that sort of opened my mind to what the possibilities are in theater. I have never been a very big musical person, although as you can see, I have instruments here. I really respect music, and I respect people who are musical people, but I was never super into musicals. And when I was in elementary school and through a lot of high school, I always equated theater with musicals. Theater equals musicals, or theater equals Shakespeare. Neither of the two were super interesting to me. But then, as I sort of progressed through my high school career and gained more knowledge as to what is out there in theater, I realized that there is a type of theater for everyone. there are so many different varieties and types of plays that you can experience that it's like seeing a movie. You know, you might dislike one kind of movie, but I am sure that there is a type of movie out there that you will enjoy. And same goes for theater. You might dislike one kind of play, but there are definitely plays out there that you will enjoy. And once I sort of figured that out, I really became drawn to the art form, and I ended up going to college for it. So I went through the entire collegiate theater auditions process, which is an entirely other conversation because it can be fairly complex. But basically, if you think you might be interested in going to college for acting, the biggest piece of advice that I could give you is take some classes. You know, take some acting classes, because it can be a very competitive field to get into. If you want to just go to college for theater in general rather than acting specifically, that's a little bit different. Then I would say really focus on your English classes, focus on writing, creative writing, things like that. Really sort of expand your mind in that way. But yeah, so I went to college for acting. I went first to a school called the New School for Drama, which is a BFA program. It's a conservatory in Manhattan. And what that means, what a conservatory or a BFA program is a college program that essentially is specifically just for the art that you're doing. And they have BFAs for a lot of different things, including music, painting, you know, the entire gamut of artistic expression. But it means that you're pretty much just studying that art, and you're not really studying history, you're not really studying science or anything else other than the art that you came there to study. And I pretty quickly realized after getting into this BFA, this conservatory program, that yes, thank you, BFA equals Bachelor of Fine Arts, that there was a lot out there in the world that I was curious about and that I wanted to study and I wanted to learn. But because I was in a BFA program, I didn't have the opportunity to do that. So I left my BFA program and I took a year to reassess what my choices were, which is another big piece of advice that I will give everyone is you have the time to assess what your options are and assess what you think you might want to do and to go for that. So I left my first school. I took a year, I reassessed. I decided that I wanted to go to school for theater rather than for acting specifically, because that would give me some other options of things to study. I ended up going to Pacific University, which is in Forest Grove, and I went there specifically because they have a program for applied theater, which is something that I became really interested in. Applied theater is the idea that we can take
and who continue to face abuses today. Their oppression has allowed.
My YouTube started yelling at me. I think it auto-played to our next video. So applied theater is the idea and the practice of taking theater techniques, tools that you learn in theater classes, tools that you learn in acting classes, and applying them to outside of the actual theater. So it is a couple examples would be like using acting techniques as a role-playing tool in therapy, or taking Shakespeare and teaching Shakespeare classes inside of a prison for inmates, which is one of the things that I've done with my applied theater degree. Also, just generally theater education, using theater as a tool to teach not only about theater, but as general ways to go about your life, general ways to be a good public speaker, to improvise in your life, whether it be in public speaking or in any other sort of artistic or just general job area. So yeah, so that's applied theater, and I went to school for applied theater at Pacific University. At Pacific University, I did a lot of theater, and I also did a lot of things outside of theater. I studied Spanish, and I was a Spanish minor, and was able to take a semester abroad in Argentina, in Cordoba, Argentina. Which is something that I wouldn't have been able to do with a BFA program, but I was able to do with just a general Bachelor of the Arts theater program. While I was at school at Pacific, I started hearing a lot about bag and baggage productions, because there were a few other students in the program that had either done some sort of design work with bag and baggage, or they had been in a show with bag and baggage, or they had done what was called the Emerging Artists Program with bag and baggage. And that was the thing that really piqued my interest, because the Emerging Artist Program with bag and baggage was a program for college students to basically go into the theater, go into bag and baggage productions, and work in a variety of different areas with the theater, both including acting, playwriting, directing, as well as different design elements like tech. Someone in the chat here earlier said that they were interested in doing tech for theaters. One of the things that we could do at Bag and Baggage was get experience designing lighting, designing sound, designing costumes, props, sets, as well as operating the board and being a stage manager for those shows. The stage manager is sort of the person who, after everything is set in the show, and you know, the lights have come up, they're the person who says, okay, now change the lights to this next look, or play this sound element throughout the show. So they sort of operate everything after the director has left, because in theater, once the show has started, the director's job is done, and they can go and do whatever else. They don't have to, you know, be in the theater anymore. So yeah, so I got into the Emerging Artist Program at Bag and Baggage, and that was a year-long program. And it was, I'll be honest, it was an intense year. And a lot of the work that you do in theater can be very intense. It can definitely leave you little free time in your, you know, in your life at home, but you're doing something that you love, and you're having fun with your friends that are in the theater. And so often, even though you don't have much free time at home, it doesn't feel, when you come home, like you have just, you know, worked an entire day of work. It feels like you just made art for an entire day, which is a really great feeling. So I went through that program. At the end of that program, I had the opportunity to write a play, write a full-length play. And I wrote a show called The Ballad of Arlie the Bold. It is a musical retelling of a fairy tale, the fairy tale of Iron Joe, or Iron John, which isn't a super well-known fairy tale, but it's a Grimm Brothers fairy tale. If you don't know, the Grimm Brothers are basically the people who wrote down all the fairy tales that we know and love. And they're a little bit different from like the Disney versions that we know, but they're, you know, they're very good and very interesting. So I wrote that musical, and we ended up performing that musical. This was right at the time when COVID started to really hit and everything started to shut down. So we ended up doing it as a recorded production rather than a full-fledged in-person production. But it was super fun, and got a lot of great reviews, and it was a great time. And about 6 months after that show ended, I saw that Bag and Baggage Productions was hiring, and they needed a box office manager, so someone who is there to sell the tickets, and to talk to people and be like sort of the face-to-face person, answer calls, things like that. And so I applied to that job, and I didn't get it. I didn't get the position. Someone else got the position in front of me. But about a month after that, that person ended up leaving, and Bag and Baggage contacted me and was like, you were basically our second pick. And so if you want the job, it's still yours. And that is not to say in like a self-deprecating way, but that is a consistent theme in a lot of people's professional, artistic, or just generally professional careers, is that it seems like a door has closed, but really it's either just waiting to open again, or as soon as that door closes, something else is opening up. So after I became the box office manager, the marketing and communications manager left Bag and Baggage. So there was a door opening up again for me to try and step through. And so I applied and I didn't get it. And someone else got it, and then they were only there for a couple months and they left, and then I got the job. So it's really a process of persistence. And if you are rejected from something, not being so distraught or disgruntled about it that you end up burning those bridges, but taking it in stride and continuing on and continuing to try and get other things and other opportunities, because third time is the charm. There will always be more opportunities. And one of the things that I learned in my professional life was to just proceed and just be persistent and continue to try to put yourself out there. If there's a company that you really want to work for, to just have your face out there all the time and just make it known that you, regardless of how many times you're rejected from this company, you really want to work for them. And generally, companies will appreciate that. And so, then I became the marketing and communications manager. And then along with that, I was very vocal about my passion for theater education. As soon as I got the job, I was like, hey, I just want to be honest with you. I love that I have this position. I would love to add something to it. And I'd love to start to engage in other ways. And engage with the community in other ways. And my big idea was to engage with the community in terms of education, and to reach younger folks in our area and convince them to start getting interested in theater, because really, theater is attended by a lot of older folks. And what we really need in theater is for younger people to get interested in it and to see how cool it is and to start engaging and coming to our shows. And acting in our shows and designing for our shows and all of that sort of fun stuff. So I was able to mix that into my full-time job. As I was doing all of that, stuff at Bag and Baggage, I also continued to pursue jobs that were freelance. If anyone doesn't know what freelance means, it basically means that you're doing smaller jobs. So you're not full-time, you're not employed by one company for a longer period of time, but you sort of go on for one project, you do one sort of thing, and then you jump to the next thing. And you keep working for different companies for different projects. And by doing all of that together, you end up building for yourself an income that can sustain yourself and sustain your life. And so on the side of doing my Bag and Baggage stuff, I started to do more freelance theater work. So let's see if I can figure out how to share my screen again. Share screen, boom. don't share the sound because that's not needed. That is our old. Okay. So if you guys can hear me, can you give me a thumbs up just so I know that everything is working correctly? Thank you so much. So awesome. So this is a picture of me in one of the latest shows that I did. This was Holy Name at Salt and Sage Productions, which is a theater company in Portland. And I played a 12-year-old boy in this production. So a little bit outside of my age range, although it was a sort of more high-minded kind of metaphysical piece. So being 12, playing 12 and not actually being 12 was totally fine. That's me with a very funny face, crying on stage, and the actor playing my father comforting me. Yeah, so this is just an example of one of the other ways that I supplement my income as a theater artist, is doing some performing, doing some acting. And the process of getting a role in the theater in Portland is really just about going on a lot of auditions. Having your monologues ready, having your audition material ready. And we already sort of talked about this a little bit. If you're not sure how to do that, I would really recommend looking at classes. There are a ton of classes in the area that can help you sort of put together some auditioning material. Going on a lot of auditions and just waiting and understanding that for every one part that you get in a show, you'll probably get 15, 17, 20, 25 maybe rejections, because shows can only cast so many people, and there are a lot of people that want to be in theater. So this is one of the things that I do in my freelance work. Let me try and share another screen here. I'm not sure where it is. I lost it. I'll try and pull it up for you guys and show you guys. But I in addition to doing freelance acting, I am also a director. So I direct shows. The most recent show that I have directed was at Pacific University. So it was at my what's called alma mater. It's the school that you went to, the college that you went to, or the high school that you went to. But it was at the college that I went to at Pacific University. And I directed a show called Constellations, which was a very cool show about possibility and multiverses and grief and love and a bunch of good, juicy things like that. And okay, sorry, I'm just reading the chat. And as a director, your job is to oversee the production of a piece of theater or a piece of film, whatever it is that you're directing, and to make sure that all of the parts are working together towards the same goal, basically. So, and I see the hand raised. We'll get to that in a minute. Thank you, Madison. So the best thing that a director can do is to know how to talk to people and to know how to have other artists talk to each other in a way that makes sense. So, for instance, a painter or a scenic designer, a set designer, something like that, might use different words than a sound designer does, because they're very different arts. You know, one person is thinking about music and the sounds that you hear and things like that, and the other person is thinking about the set and how people are going to sit in chairs and what the chairs are going to look like and stuff like that. But a good director is someone who is able to take both of those sides of thinking and be the sort of catalyst, be the through line, the person who can connect those different brains so that they're working on the same thing and they're both striving towards the same goal. They're both trying to get towards the same vision. So that is something that I did. In addition to that, a director also does what's called the blocking, which is where does an actor go on stage? When they say a line, where do they walk? Where do they position themselves? How do they look? Do they sit down? Do they stand? Are they kneeling? What are they doing? So all of those different things put together is what a director does. So we just closed Constellations back in February. So really not that long ago. It was a great show. It was about 6 weeks of work on the director's end. And then as I said just a couple minutes ago, after the show is open in theater, the director is generally expected to be there for opening night. But then after that, they're free to go about and do their lives and take on other projects and stuff like that. So it was about 6 weeks of work for myself. The actors tacked onto that another like 2 weeks of performances, because that's how long the runs are at Pacific University. Since this is school to career day and you are all interested in careers about theater, I don't feel weird saying the income that I got from doing just that 6 weeks of work was $4,000. So it can be a pretty lucrative field to get in if your lifestyle is matching and everything like that. And that's on top of other things that you are doing. So being an artist, especially in an area like Portland, where we're a fairly big theater scene, but we're not so big that an actor can just do acting and have a living and be able to pay their rent. And I have a cat and my cat needs to eat food, so pay for their food for their pets and themselves and stuff like that, and have a car to get places. It's not so easy in this area to just be an actor and be able to do all that stuff. An artist in this area needs to really be able to piece together pieces of a pie, do the acting, do the directing, do the playwriting, do all of these things so that they can have a whole pie that actually sustains themselves. So a couple things to sort of, I know we're kind of coming up towards the end here. A couple things to, in terms of advice for someone who is in high school right now, which I assume a lot of you are, maybe middle school. A few pieces of advice to give you if you're interested in going into the arts in general, or you're more specifically interested in going into theater, is to one, go after whatever it is you're interested in. So if it's painting, start taking some classes that are outside of your high school. Take whatever sort of painting or art classes are inside of your high school, your middle school, but then in your free time, look for other classes too. Really put yourself out there, encourage yourself to go after and chase the thing that you're really passionate about. One of the things that I really wish that I did as a high schooler is I wish that I had taken more classes that were just about auditioning and just about finding monologues and being able to audition for theaters. I think that would have been really helpful. And so try and find the classes that you want to take. Try and find things that you think you need help with, and really go after those things and really try and take classes specifically in those areas. And be honest with yourself. Like you can say, I'm not super great at auditioning or finding monologues, or you can say, I am not super great at figure drawing, and find ways to supplement those things and to make yourself better at those things. The other thing that I would do is sort of in opposition of that, but at the same time, I would have not forgotten about my other studies as much, because like I said, as soon as I went to my BFA program, my program that was specifically just about acting, I realized that there was a lot of stuff that I was interested in that I had access to in high school and that I no longer had access to in my BFA program that I really missed. I really missed studying Spanish, and I really wanted that again. And there were a lot of things that I think would have helped me get into programs that just different programs if I had spent more time on them in high school, and raised my SAT scores or my ACT scores or whatever it is, whatever tests you are doing now. That is always helpful. It is colleges, programs, whether you're actually choosing to go to a college or you're going to some sort of career training program, whatever sort of path to success and your future you see, all of those programs like to see well-rounded individuals. They like to see someone who has a dedication in the art or the endeavor that they're specifically focused on, and also has other interests, because that is what makes a complete, well-rounded individual, and someone who is ultimately successful. So with that, I guess I will open it up to questions that anyone has. Yeah, Madison, I know that you had a question.
Yes, I have a few. The first one, this is a pretty simple question, and I apologize, but for monologues, if you're for an audition, do the monologues have to be related to like the theme of the play that you're auditioning for, or do they just be random of whatever topic you want to talk about?
Yeah, so no, they don't have to be on the theme. Generally, a production will give you an outline for what they're sort of looking for in a monologue. So for instance, I have an audition coming up tomorrow. And for that audition, they are looking for two contrasting pieces, two contrasting monologues, not to exceed 3 minutes in length, which is generally something that you will see very often. That is sort of the standard of what people ask for in an audition piece. So for that particular audition, I am bringing a Shakespeare, which is a dramatic Shakespeare, and I'm bringing a comedic contemporary monologue. Contemporary basically means that it was written within the past 100 years.
Oh, wow.
So what you really want to focus on in your monologue is a couple of things. You want to find monologues that you're really interested in, that really spark some sort of joy, some sort of passion in you. Talk about something that you're interested in, or show a perspective that you really enjoy, or have something that gets the creative mind sort of moving a little bit. You also want to find monologues that are ideally speaking to someone. There are a lot of monologues out there that are like, back when I was 6 years old, I found an apple in the yard and it had a worm in it, and blah, 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 blah. These like sort of memory monologues where you're going over, memories that you have in your life. And while those can be interesting in a play, in the audition itself, they're not really as interesting, because you're just watching someone rehash something that has happened to them, when really a person who's auditioning you, they want to watch you do something. They want to watch you be yourself and engage in stuff and have a conversation. And so really you should look for a monologue where your character is speaking to another character and trying to get that other character to do something, to realize something like that. And oftentimes that means that rather than finding inside of a play one big chunk of text, one big like 1.5-minute long piece of text, you're finding a lot of sort of smaller pieces of text, and you scratch out where the other person speaks and you push all of those pieces, all those text to get all that text together. And you say that as though it were one piece of text, one monologue, and that is totally fine to do. And the third and last thing that I'll say about generally doing auditions, doing monologues, is you want the monologue to be a mini play. You want it to be an entire story from beginning to end. So in my monologue, in my audition that I'm doing tomorrow, I'm going to come into the room. I'm going to be very personable. I'm going to say my name, say what my pieces are, and then I'm going to start right at the top with big Shakespeare, big, confident Shakespearean language. This particular monologue goes from being really big and boisterous to then a little bit more soft and intimate and more direct, and talking to someone and trying to convince them of something. And then as soon as that monologue ends, I am going to take a little tiny circle, grab a chair, put the chair down, and start into my comedic monologue. And that comedic monologue is kind of wacky and zany. And while my Shakespeare was like really confident, this one is more like, I'm a funny guy and I don't really know what I'm doing. And then I'm going to end it with that. And then I'm going to say thank you and probably leave the room. And that gives a nice sort of arc. Like if you think of a story, how a story is structured, there's a beginning there with like big confident, there's a middle where I'm like taking the Shakespeare down a little bit, and then there's a bit of an end with like funny, comedic, goofy guy. So finding a way to make it a full play in and of itself is a really great thing to do. Yeah, does that help?
Yes, very much. And then I have a couple more questions about directing. Well, one of them is about more like screenwriting, I guess. But anyway, for a director, when you had mentioned about like for the 6-week job, if a director has like not art block, but like the creative juices are just not working for like, I don't know, a few days, would the production have to be not held back, but like extended, I should say, for the production time? Okay. Because I was thinking,
me nodding, that wasn't an answer. That was just me being like, yes, I hear you. I understand what.
Okay, sorry.
No, you're good. You're good. Was there more?
No, that's basically it for that question.
Yeah, awesome. So one of the things about being a professional artist is that you are always working on a time frame. And you always have a deadline for something that you want to do, unless you become like a wildly successful artist that can, we all know that, musician that takes 15 years to drop their next album and everyone's like waited on with bated breath for that album. That generally you're not afforded that luxury as an artist. So as a director, we have an opening date and we have to get that opening date. There is by the time that we start our rehearsal, they're selling tickets for that opening date, so people aren't going to wait for us to have a couple of days of artist's block or director's block to then push the dates back a couple of days so that we can get on top of our stuff. But the good news is that generally, if you've done your work and you have a little bit of training there, that's what your training is for. Your training isn't for the moments when you're just wildly inspired and you know what to do next. Your training is for the moments when things are tough for you and you don't really know what to do next. That's when you fall back on the techniques that you've learned, the training that you have, and you allow that to push yourself forward. So generally with enough knowledge and enough training, even if you get to the point where you have some artist's block, you'll be able to work through it because you can rely on what you already know and what you've already trained to do.
Cool, thank you. And then my last question. So for a director, are they basically the editor of all aspects of that specific play or only certain elements?
No, so it's all a collaborative art form. So you are generally the last say as to whether something in your show works or not. But that doesn't mean that you should act as though you are the last say. So for example, when I was directing at Pacific, the department chair, the head of the program, her name is Ellen Margolis. She's a wonderful, magical human being. She had some questions about some choices that I made in the show. And there were some things that were in the play that she didn't think were super helpful. And ultimately, it was up to me to decide whether I wanted to keep that in the play or not. But as a director, it's my job to take everyone's opinions into account. So I looked at what Ellen was saying, I looked at the show, and ultimately I decided, actually, Ellen's idea is correct. And what she is giving me here is a good note, and that would help the show immensely. And so let's adjust it. And so we did. And yeah, so you are ultimately the final editor, but a good director won't just brush aside other people's opinions. You know, they will take all of that into account, and use it to try and make the best production that they can possibly make.
Okay, cool. And I just have one more question. I'm sorry. For the BFA, for theater specifically, is there a BFA for the screenplay writing and all of that, or no?
I am sure that there is. I don't know off the top of my head where that program would be.
Okay.
But there are BFA programs for directing. There are BFA programs for set design. There are BFA programs for most things. So it might take a little bit of digging for you, if that's what you're interested in, to find those programs. But that is generally, you know, Google is your friend there. So if you just Google BFA screenwriting, or more broadly, you could do something like BFA in film, or BFA in creative writing, something like that, that would help you get as close to that as you want.
Cool, thank you. That answers all my questions.
Awesome. Anyone else?
Hill High has a question. They are saying, can you tell us a little bit more about what you do on the business side of Bag and Baggage? That's because you already talked about the marketing and communications. What other aspects are there related to business?
Yeah, so I'll try and answer that by just going through generally what a day is as a marketing communications manager for Bag and Baggage, as well as what our process is for an entire show. So a day at Bag and Baggage sees me walking into the office, sitting down, hopping right on my computer, and first checking my emails and checking my to-do list. And that generally comprises things like there are advertisements that are due at a number of different places. And so I have to design those advertisements and send them off to those places, as well as look at invoices, look at what advertisements I've already put out that need to now be paid for. And then using the company assets to pay for those advertisements. It could be something like someone has a question about the show, someone in the press, some sort of news reporter or something like that, has a question about the show that needs answering. And so I call them, I talk to them a little bit about the show. I try and get them more interested in the play so that they will actually put out some press releases for the production. It could be that I'm actually designing different posters, different print material. We print out a lot of posters. We also print out brochures that have all of the different shows that we're doing for a season in them. We have big banners on the front of our building that I design, I create, and I print out. So actually getting on my laptop using a program called Adobe Illustrator to design all of these banners, all of these things at different sizes, and sending them out to print so that we can get them at the right time. Also things like creating, writing out advertisements, writing out what's called copy. And a copy is basically a small blurb, a sort of some text, some words about the show. So creating copy for radio advertisements so that our radio partners can then take that copy and read them on air so that more people know about our shows. And so those are all different things that I might do in a day. Let me pull up here a example of a full project for one show. So because I work in theater, everything goes show by show. So all of the tasks that I do are generally based on that. I do the same set of tasks, the same sort of plan across a number of weeks that the show is preparing to be actually produced, and as well as when it is actually playing. So I'm going to share my screen here again and click this. And awesome. So this is a program that we use at Bag and Baggage called Asana. And it helps everyone stay on track of what they have to do. So right here, we see that we are in Red Velvet. Red Velvet is our next play that is happening at Bag and Baggage. And here in progress is the marketing tasks. I have 58 different tasks to do for this show. So yeah, it can be a lot. So here we have when it is previewing, which means the first public appearance, the first public performance, but it's not actually the show. It's not actually opening. Opens July 21st, closes August 6th. WO equals weeks out from the preview. So number of weeks out from the preview. Here we'll kind of try and quickly go through all of this. So here I have all of this stuff happens at the 10 weeks out from preview mark. That includes adding the image to our homepage of our website, because as the marketing and communications manager, I manage the website. Sending different licensing agreements to directors for photo and video. Making different event pages on Facebook and Google and on the website, connecting with the director and running through with the director all of this stuff and getting any sort of adjustments that they want to be made. Brainstorming 15 different reasons to see the show, designing the first draft of the posters and flyers, ordering those posters and flyers, all of that kind of good stuff. Then here at 9 weeks, I'll just talk about some key things. Whoop, where did we go? 9 weeks. So plan NP is nonprofit. Plan nonprofit partner and outreach plans. That means, so for instance, we just had a show called Apples in Winter. And in Apples in Winter, there was a lot of discussion on the prison system. And so our nonprofit partner was a organization called Safety and Justice, Partnership for Safety and Justice. And they're a criminal reform organization. So we partnered with them both to get more exposure for our show and to talk about what they what they're interested in, what their organization is about. So basically we had the widest reach for our show possible. And we didn't have to spend any money on it. We didn't have to spend money on an advertisement, because this organization was aligned with what the show was talking about, and they wanted to help spread the word about it. So leveraging those nonprofit partnerships, social media calendar. Let me jump down to my begin social media calendar. So in my task of beginning the social media calendar, I have 53 other tasks that are just about what type of things are going out onto our social media each week. So at the 8-week mark, I have the intro image, which is just an image for the show, a little bit about what a little thing about what the show is about. Intro video, which is just the director talking a little bit about the show. An intro to the playwright, which is just us talking a little bit about who the playwright is. All the way down through week 3 of actual performance, which has a reminder to everyone that the show is closing this week. Get your tickets right now because you're not going to be able to in a little bit. A thank you to anyone who sponsored the show. A thank you to the cast. A thank you to the audience. And then a little bit about what's coming up next. And then back here, I'll jump down again to opening week. Confirm opening night details. So who is getting tickets for opening night? Opening week, prep the programs. So the little booklets that you get, put any sort of information that needs to go in there into the booklets. Get the video ready. Usually we like to have an opening night video that shows all the reviews that people have given for previews or any sort of, news features, anything like that. And then check on the numbers at opening. And then if the strategy needs to be changed, if what I'm doing needs to be changed a little bit to make sure that we're hitting the number of audience members that we want to hit, then work on that and do whatever I think will be beneficial to get people in the door and see our shows. Yeah, I hope that sort of answers your question. If you have any follow-up, just let me know.
So I was curious, for the actors, are they company actors there at Bag and Baggage, or are auditions open to anybody? And do you have to be an equity actor, like have the equity belong to the Actor Equity Association or SAG? Like, how does that work?
Yeah. So just so everyone knows what we're talking about when we're talking about SAG or equity, that is a union for actors. SAG-AFTRA is the Screen Actors Guild and American Film, Television, and Radio Association. And that is the union for anyone who is a professional screen, TV, commercial, or radio actor. The other side of that for theater, we have what's called Actors Equity Association. And Actors Equity is the organization for actors who are in the theater, the union for actors who are in the theater. Unions for theater and film and radio work a little bit differently than unions for, say, a nurse or someone like that, because we're freelance artists. So one of the stipulations for an actor who is in equity is that they have to get paid a certain amount of money. And for a smaller theater company like us, that is generally not feasible for us to be able to actually pay that certain amount of money for everyone that we hire. So, and that is not to say that we don't believe that unions or actors equity is something important. We absolutely do. We're just in a different position than some large scale commercial theater, which I said that I would talk about the differences of those, and I haven't gotten to that yet. So we generally don't hire equity actors. We do occasionally if we have the room for it in our budget a season. But no, anyone who wants to do theater can go to one of our auditions. I think our auditions for this season are specifically 18 and over, because we don't really have any parts in the shows that we're doing this season that are for someone who's younger than that. But yeah, we are open to anyone who, all you have to do is sign up. There's no cost. Anyone that asks you to like pay money to do an audition, that's a scam. Don't do it. They shouldn't be asking you to pay money to audition for them. So yeah, we don't, it's free. Just come in, sign up online, whatever it is, and do your audition. Just very quickly, because I know we're running out of time here. The difference between commercial theater, nonprofit theater, and community theater. A community theater is something that is volunteer-based. So it's a theater company that runs with the help of everyone in the community that comes in and they volunteer to do the thing, do the show without any pay, basically. So the actors, the designers, the directors, all of those people, they are community-based. They're volunteers. They're there just because they have a passion for theater and they want to put on a play for people. Versus professional theater, where all of those people are paid. It's not, they also have a passion for theater, but there is, because these professional theaters tend to charge a little bit more money, tend to have a little bit more elaborate sets, elaborate costumes, elaborate storylines, things like that. They charge a little bit more, and then they actually pay all of the people that are working on their shows. Inside of the umbrella of professional theater, you have commercial theater and nonprofit theater. Commercial theater is generally the type of theater that is like Broadway. It is theater that has to make a certain amount of money because people have invested in the show and they have to see a return on their investment, versus nonprofit theater, where their goal is just to break even, just to make as much as they spent on the show and maybe make a little bit more so that they have some money to make the next show or to pay for the space that they're in, stuff like that. And most professional theater in the United States is that nonprofit theater. That's what Bag and Baggage is. That's what ART, Artist Repertory Theater. That's what pretty much all theater in Portland, except for maybe Portland Center Stage, although I'm not super sure about that. That's what most theater is. Really, you pretty much only see commercial theater on Broadway or in Chicago with the Guthrie or Steppenwolf. Guthrie's in Minnesota, I think. Goodman, Steppenwolf, big theaters like that, you know. Yeah.
And then two questions for you. Are you still doing the theater workshops at Hidden Creek Community Center?
Yeah, so those
Tell the students about that.
Yeah, so those workshops are at the moment on hiatus.
Okay.
But they are only on hiatus because we are currently seeking more funding for our education and outreach program. And so right now we are looking for people to give us money so that we can actually hire a teacher to go in and do those workshops. For a long time, it was just me doing those workshops for free, essentially.
You haven't figured out how to clone yourself yet, right?
Exactly. Yeah, I can only be in so many places a week. Yeah, we have a lot of shows and things like that coming up. So at the moment, I am not able to go and do those workshops. But hopefully within the next couple months, we'll have the money to actually be able to hire someone that can go in and do those workshops. So I would suggest that everyone follow Bag and Baggage Productions on Instagram, Facebook, check out our website, things like that. You'll be able to keep up to date on what we have coming up, what sort of classes or workshops or auditions, opportunities we have coming up by following us at those different places.
And then tell students the opportunities that are available so that they can come see shows at Bag and Baggage.
Yeah, so
you have a special program for students, right?
We do indeed, yes. Yeah. So we have what's called Passport. And Passport basically means that any students, any of you guys that want to come see a show at Bag and Baggage, you get a free ticket. And any theater teachers, any educators out there who want to bring their students in, if you're in high school or below, free tickets for all your students. If it's collegiate, then we ask for $5 for each student, which is very small. For a lot of theater companies are charging much more than that. So yeah, I mean, we would love to have everyone come in and see our shows. The next show that we have coming up is called Red Velvet. It's by a person named Lolita Chakrabarty. She is a playwright who recently won an award for her play version of The Life of Pi that was on Broadway. She wrote the staged version of that story. And it is a show that is about a man named Ira Aldridge, who in the 1800s moved from the United States to the UK, to London, to perform as Othello. Ira Aldridge was a Black man, and Othello is a Black role. Othello is a Black character. And so right in the wake of the abolition of slavery, right when there are riots in the street and the Civil War is starting to heat up, he left America, went to the UK, and performed as the first ever recorded history that we know of, the first ever Black man to actually play Othello, because typically it was played by a white person in blackface. And so he had to contend with the pain of the abolition of slavery and the brewing tensions of the Civil War, both in his home country of America, and now as an actor, as the first Black man to actually play Othello, those tensions in the UK. And so it's about his story in playing this role, and how he went about actually performing this character. Very powerful, very interesting show. If you're interested, you can find tickets. It starts July 21st and runs through August 6th. And then if you're interested in seeing me in a show, we have at Salt and Sage Productions in downtown, sort of southeast Portland, we are performing both Titus Andronicus and Macbeth, and I am in both of those shows this summer. So Titus Andronicus is a gory, horror-filled Shakespeare play. It's very bloody, and check with your parents if you want to come and see it. Macbeth is also pretty bloody, but not quite as bloody. Both really fantastic shows, though. So yeah.
This has been a really fascinating hour. Thank you, hour plus. Thank you, Elliot. I really appreciate that. Does anybody